I'm joined in studio by Luby Rush from Making Course and Ben Getz from Urban Harvest. Now, the two of them were involved in an absolutely incredible initiative yesterday. They were at the Observatory Junior School's first harvest of their edible garden. Now, this 400 square meter garden was only planted in November last year, but it's already producing 10 kilograms of produce per day, and that incredible fresh produce is used to feed 3 different schools' learners.
Luby, I want to start with you. You were involved in an extraordinary project yesterday. What happened?
Well, for us who were behind the scenes preparing in advance of the festival yesterday, it was 2 days of semi-chaos, which was extremely exciting because it involved, first of all, doing a harvest, and there were children from all 3 schools that joined us, and we did some picking, and then we did some pre-preparing. And then both yesterday, the day before and yesterday, we cooked up a feast to feed to all the guests that were coming to celebrate the first harvest from the Observatory Primary School Veggie Garden.
Now, I was following along on Facebook, and you turned one of the art classrooms into a kitchen. How fantastic.
It was great. What was fantastic about it was that they had one side wall full of sinks, double bowl sinks. So it made it really, really easy to use. And 2 little stoves and a counter which was slightly on the low side because we're dealing with little people here. But there was lots of room. So, I mean, it was completely chaotic because we had 6 children, about 4 or 5 staff members. We pulled in 2 other chefs to come and help us, and then Isha and I. And coordinating between all these people. And then we also had film crews, so we had to stop and be quiet. So it was fantastic pandemonium and lovely, lovely energy. The young kids just so enthusiastic about it.
It sounds like wonderful chaos.
It was great. It was really great.
Now, Ben, I want you to take us back to the planting of this edible garden. It's absolutely phenomenal, the number of children that are being fed with produce grown on their property.
Absolutely. So we started with the implementation of this food garden at Observatory Junior in October last year, and the garden was planted in early November. Now, yesterday, it was just 3 months later, we were able to have our first harvest, and in fact there was more than we could possibly harvest in one day. The garden is 400 square meters, and it's capable of producing up to 10 kilograms a day of fresh, yes, every single day, of fresh organic produce, including herbs, a wide variety of food available. And yeah, people were very, very excited and very inspired by the sheer growth in just 3 months.
Now, speak to us about the children who were there for the experience. How many children, firstly, are going to be fed? Is it going to be a daily meal that they're receiving from this garden? Talk to us about that.
It is a daily meal. There's currently 200 learners at the school who are on the feeding program, which is supported by Peninsula School Feeding Association. The idea is that the fresh, and of course realizing it's not just fresh, it's organic, it's obviously chemical free, it's packaging free, it's travel mile free, but for me the main thing is that it's absolutely fresh, and that is not just fresh in terms of its taste and its quality, but fresh in terms of the experience. It's literally harvested by the children, taken to the kitchen, prepared by the ladies in the kitchen, and then within hours fed to the children. Each one of those 200 children will get some fresh produce on their plates every single day, Monday to Friday.
Oh, how fantastic. Now, Luby, you had to make something of all this beautiful produce yesterday, and of course you can follow along on your Facebook page of what you eventually turned out with. But speak to us a bit about what you did.
Well, when we first went to have a look at the school and the kitchen, I noticed on the wall in the kitchen where they work that there was a menu. And so I had a look at that menu, and we decided that we'd use that as the kind of basis to actually plug into rather than creating a whole new menu, because the basis of that menu is actually incredibly healthy. Very good staples, and you know, the Peninsula School Feeding Scheme I think are doing a pretty good job. And so it was a real great kind of platform to just add the fresh things into it. So, and then of course we looked at what was absolutely abundant in the garden, and we decided that the spinach was just doing so brilliantly, and the beetroot as well, that those were 2 things, in fact, indeed.
Beautiful.
And I mean, the beetroot that came out of that garden, and some of them were like this size, and so sweet that just cutting a chunk and chewing it like that raw is sweet. You know, it's as good as eating a raw carrot. So I used beetroot in 2 different ways. One was roasting it, but what I did was I tried to introduce to the kids that even though they're harvesting straight from the garden, there is still waste, because people don't realize that in fact the stems of things, and even sometimes the leaves, for example, of beetroot and stems are edible, and the stems of spinach are edible, and so much of the time that's actually thrown away, even to the extent that the one little fellow who was harvesting the spinach was harvesting it quite high up. And I had to point out to him, no, go right down close to the ground, because we're going to eat that stem and you don't want to leave any behind and waste it. So even at that level, the direct experience of being involved in the garden through to the kitchen is an amazing carry through and learning experience for the kids. So spinach and beetroot, and then we used showcased brinjals as well. I made a kind of a chutney for the guests to take away, and I included an indigenous ingredient there, sour figs, because that combines incredibly well with the brinjals. And then Ishay Govender, who also worked with us to prepare this amazing feast, she decided she really wanted to showcase herbs, because often we have them in our garden and we're not quite sure what to do with them. So she made a tabbouleh, which was really, really very herb rich with couscous, but it could be done with rice, which is one of their staples that they have in their menu. And it was amazing to see how well that was received, because it was really rather green and full of herbs, and the kids loved it. So yes, we did several, I mean, and the list could go on of the things that we could do.
But what I want to ask you about is dessert, because I have an incredible sweet tooth, and I saw something very beautiful on your Facebook page. Talk to us about this.
Very, very pink. One of my favorite topics, and something that I spend a lot of my working life doing, is exploring indigenous ingredients. Most of them are extremely little known in this country, and I've decided to put a lot of effort into getting them known, grown and used. So Num Num Natal plum, Carissa macrocarpa, is what I showcased yesterday, and I stewed it with pears and some red wine and some spices and served it on yogurt, and it's always a real winner because it's such an incredibly beautiful color. And I made sure that I had a branch with the berries on it as well. And one of the things I really hope to achieve at the school is that they plant some of these indigenous plants. They've got a long perimeter wall, and they could start including some of those plants which are thorny and also very good for security.
Dual purpose.
Yes, indeed.